welcome to council. We'll call the meeting to order. If we should encounter an emergency, we have exits out both sets of doors off of the lobby. If for some reason those exits are not available, there's also another exit behind council chambers here. If we are evacuated for any reason, our muster point is located near the gazebo in Lions Park, and we will not re-enter the building until we're given an all clear from staff. Now that we know how to be safe, Councillor Mearns, we have a land acknowledgement.
The town of Sylvan Lake acknowledges with deep respect that we are gathered on Treaty 6 territory, which is also the ancestral homeland of the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. These lands hold significant historical and cultural significance, serving as traditional meeting grounds, vital gathering places, and crucial travel routes for numerous Indigenous nations, including the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Métis, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux. We are profoundly grateful for the invaluable contributions of the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who continue to guide us, remember those who have passed, leaving behind a legacy of wisdom and understanding. In our recognition, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to the countless First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people whose enduring presence has permanently imprinted these lands with a rich heritage dating back centuries.
Thank you very much. Next, we would normally move along to open microphone, but my understanding is we have no one signed up for that tonight, so we will carry on adoption of the agenda. Ms. Phillips, welcome back.
Thank you.
Do you have any items for us tonight?
I do have an addition, if council will accept it, to add Community Hub Council appointment.
Wonderful. Let's add that as business item 6H. We'll just put that at the end. Council, would someone like to make a motion? Thank you, Councillor Iwanicki.
Yeah, I can move to adopt the agenda as amended.
Wonderful. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Next, we'll move along to the consent agenda. Consent agenda is an item used to increase meeting efficiency. Council, we've got a number of items marked with an asterisk that are proposed by administration to be part of the consent agenda, but we have the opportunity to pull anything that we have extensive questions or would like to have discussion on. We'll just ask that you do that prior to the motion being made. So, Councillor, are there any items that we'd like to pull from the consent agenda? Councillor Ostindi.
Nothing to pull, but just to point out the Public Works reports contains many waterworks infrastructure improvements, and I'd raised the comment last meeting about how those waterworks projects form a great communications initiative, and I just want to tie that together for all of us.
Thank you. Appreciate you highlighting that. Any other items, Council? With that, would someone like to make a motion for the consent agenda? Councillor Iwanicki.
I move that the 2026-01-27 regular meeting of council meeting minutes be approved as presented, that the 2026-02-03 governance and priorities meeting minutes be approved as presented, that council approves the 2025 Q4 concerns and requests report as outlined in AIR 1324 as information, that council amends motion 573-1025 to the following dates for the regular meetings of council for the 2025-2026 council calendar year as presented in AIR 1317 to regular meetings of council in parentheses 2026, April 27, September 21. That council approves the Public Works Q4 report as outlined in AIR 1326 as information, and that council approves electronic meeting attendance by Councillor Iwanicki for the meeting of February 24th, 2026 for the reasons of work demand.
Excellent. Thank you. Council, all those in favor and opposed, and that is carried unanimously. Next, we'll move along to item number 6D. We have some additional Public Works reports that require motions. Mr. Boudreau, welcome.
Good afternoon, Council. We like to present this report to request a couple of motions on two of our quarter reports. The one quarter report for CP 1603 50th Ave reconstruction. That one, we would like to see the closing date be extended to from 2025 to December 2027. There was some discoveries made at the very tail end of that project that we were hoping to have wrapped up the end of last year, but working with the province on how to best mitigate these issues that we discovered, it's turning out it's going to take us quite some time. And knowing we're going to be in the area, hopefully, in 2027 to do some work in the area as well, it stands to reason doing this work at the same time as that other work would be, we anticipate to be the most convenient time for everyone in the area. I should say the issue was that we discovered some buried tanks at the 50th Ave and 50th Street intersection in the northwest corner adjacent to the existing building that's there. So again, like I said, we're working with the environment, working with the building owners. Everything's going well. There's really no issues or environmental concerns per se that we've been brought aware of, but we just want to make sure we're doing it right. And so taking this extra time and talking to everyone involved to make sure it's done right is important for us. The other one is CP 2401, the 47th Ave upgrades and the intersection traffic signals. That one, we expected some unknown delays due to some Fortis issues and some design constraints we had and some material procurement for the street light materials. If everything gone as planned, we would have had those installed November, December, but again, it just got pushed out. They started there now. They've been there for about a week and a half. And so we need to have that extended again till February or December 2027. That'll allow us, again, to finish off all the work this year and cover our maintenance period at the same time.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions? Yes, Councillor Cindy.
I'm just trying to understand the extension of work. I understand the delay with the traffic lights. What we're extending then is the final lift of asphalt. Is that what we're extending? Because we need it to settle for another year? I'm just trying to understand that.
Through the chair to Councillor Stindy. No, we will be doing final lift of asphalt in this year, in 2026. But there's always something that creeps up, be it landscaping, be it deficiency repairs, something of that nature. So we just try to cover ourselves and just go a little bit beyond that. If in case something does have to go, we're able to accommodate that.
Okay.
Any additional questions, Council? Let's do these motions separately. Would someone be interested in making the first motion? Councillor Mearns.
Make a motion the council extend the project completion date by 2 years to December 31st, 2027 for CP 1603 50th Ave reconstruction as presented in AIR 1273.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions, comments, or debate? All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Would someone like to make that second motion? Councillor Bilodeau.
The council extend the project completion date by 2 years to December 31st, 2027 for CP 2401, 47 Avenue upgrades, Highway 20 to RR 12 as presented in ARI 1273.
Thank you. Any additional comments on that item?
Did we just read the...
Councillor Ostindi?
I had a question anyways.
Sure.
I do have a question about the 50-50 intersection. I understand the work has to be done, and how does that affect then the work that's going to happen on what we call Main Street on 50th Street, the 2 blocks down? Will that be then overlapping, or will there be a delay of construction season? Because I thought it was in the same year, potentially, that this would end and, or most of the work would be done and Main Street.
Through the chair to Councillor Stindy. Good question. We're not sure about the extent of work. We are working on the province on what exactly has to be done to ensure this is done in the best manner favorable. The work that we want to do on the core Main Street is a bit of ways away from where this is. So we should be able to do the work, if need be, at the same time. Ideally, we like to get the work done as soon as possible, of course, but just to give us, again, things sometimes move pretty slowly, especially when it comes to complicated issues like this. So we want to make sure we've given ourselves enough grace period, and in recognizing that we have that future project coming up, it really made sense to sort of try not to speed things up. There may be something that we can do at the same time while doing a project and there's crews on hand to hopefully maybe save us some money at the same time too if there's something that had to be done.
Yeah, just really hoping they don't make a mess for everybody in terms of traffic movement and all that and major projects. And yeah, it's so nice when we have a clear period of no interruption for all of us. But if we can save money, we always can take a little harassment for that.
Yeah, we always try to be cognizant of
Yeah.
traffic, especially in this
Thank
area
you.
here. We certainly are pretty sensitive to the impacts we have in that zone. So
Yeah.
we'll take that in mind when we're planning this out. Thank you.
Well, and just to ensure we have this straight, the motion for Councillor Bilodeau is relating to the 47th Avenue upgrades. That's what we all have. Great. Wanted to make sure we didn't mix that. Any additional comments on that item? All right, seeing none, all those in favor and opposed, and that is carried unanimously. Next, we'll move along to the Q4 Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Quarterly Report. Miss Calicut, is that right? Yes. I had to think really hard about that name change.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So normally we include the Recreation, Culture, and Tourism quarterly reports as a consent agenda item, but I did want to bring a few items to Council's attention. So first of all, this will be the last report that will be coming from the Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Department. Starting in 26, so this past January, will be Community Services. So that we will include some WCC statistics and information, and we'll be removing the tourism information regarding like Visit Sylvan Lake and any of that type of data, and that will come to Council in the tourism report. Okay. So the key thing that I'd like to bring your attention to is the event impact summary. So you should have copies on your desk. So one is the Bull Riders Canada expenses. Now, I'll show you, it looks like this, mine is super messy, I wrote all over it. And the other one is the event impact summary, and I'll turn your attention to the front page, which is the event, starts with event parameters on the top. So when we talk about events and we talk about tourism events, it's important that we consider all of the different pieces, and so that's what I want to just have a conversation with Council about. So when we look at the bull riding event, and the event description shows we have just over 3,000 people attending, and then it has the expenses, revenues, and what our grand total is. Now that's just one piece of the puzzle when we're looking at events. What this doesn't show is like the staffing. So for example, in brackets I put in there, does not include planning time. So there's a number of hours allocated for planning that isn't included in this. It's meetings throughout the year, it's planning, dealing with vendors, those types of things. It also doesn't include hours that the reception team might spend as part of their day-to-day activity, answering phone calls that are coming in, registering people for tickets, for example, those types of things. It also doesn't include the custodial staff or facility attendants or managers, for example, where that's part of their regular duties. So for example, we could have custodians on, the building is open, it's their regularly scheduled shift, and that's their responsibility. This is over and above that. So on that sheet, it shows that there is that grand total of making just over $9,000. The other piece that it does not include, and we do need to be cognizant of, is lost revenue. So for example, if the facility was booked out the entire time to a user group, we would be generating revenue from that. And so this picture doesn't accurately show that. So that's one piece that we do need to be aware of when we're hosting events in facilities that do have rental fees attached to them. When we look at the event impact summary, it gives us a really good idea of how much money is being generated for the community. So when we talk about money coming into the town, we're not meaning the municipal, like the government, for example. It's not talking about us and our revenues. It's talking about money that is coming into our community. So here at the top, the key results you can see was just over $643,000 in direct sales. And then the total sales is actually quite a bit higher at over $900,000. So when you think about things, for example, a restaurant or a hotel generates money because they sold meals or hotel rooms. Now, on top of that, those hotels and those restaurants, they're paying bookkeepers, they are paying a contracted service to come in and clean their rugs. There's so many different factors in there, and so that's how that starts to build on that revenue piece and that economic piece. So it's not just that kind of one point of contact where revenue is coming in. And then that's the same with the jobs. So job supported, so direct. The people that are cleaning the rooms, or the server in the restaurant, for example, or it could be next door center staff, the musicians that we're hiring, all of those different pieces. And then their booking agents, for example, those are those job supported roles, and that's where that money is coming in. It also breaks down because when we take something like BRC, we're selling a ticket, we are able to capture a whole bunch of data. So we are capturing things like postal codes and seeing how far people are coming away. So for this term, or for when we're looking at revenue generated and the distance people are coming, we're looking at over 40 kilometers outside of town, and that's how these numbers are coming in. So we work with Travel Alberta, we provide them all of our information, and they do all those calculations for us. So that's where this is coming from. So part of our software includes capturing all the postal codes and locations, and so then we then turn that information over to Travel Alberta to help us compile this report. Now, you will also see that the expenses from the one sheet is different from the other sheet, and that's because VRC is a partnership with the town. So we work with Bull Riders Canada, and they have some expenses as well. So Travel Alberta will take all of our expenses, town and Bull Riders Canada together, and come up with that number, and that's why the two sheets don't match up 100%, so I don't want council to be alarmed by that. So when we are looking at doing events, this is what we're really looking for on a tourism event. BRC is not a community event. Yes, it definitely supports our community. It's fun things for our community residents to enjoy, and it benefits our local businesses. So this is what we're looking for when we're putting on tourism events. Anytime that we can capture data like this, we do. We can't do this for everything. So for example, if we have an event and we're not collecting money and postal codes or locations from people, we cannot capture data like this. So going forward, when we're putting on events, we try to put on a piece where it is that paid piece to it so that we can start capturing some pieces. It could be a very small amount, but anytime we do that, we are able to capture some data that helps us. And it helps us support our business community when we're showcasing things, especially when we're trying to get sponsorships for things like that. Is there any questions from council on this piece? Because I can talk forever.
Yes, Councillor Bilodeau.
I was shocked at the bottom line on the BRC, the 9,400. 2 years ago, I went back through a bunch of the information, and the bottom line was 44,000. What's changed? Like I see a significant drop in advertising revenue, but that could have just shifted somehow. Like I know there's things in the numbers that aren't broken out, so I don't know, maybe now you're reporting it somewhere else. But overall, I was thinking this was a huge moneymaker because it takes so much resources and time outside of the 2-day event. There was like a day of setup and a day of takedown. So for 4 days to see a bottom line of 9,400, I was like, what? Am I missing something?
No. So, I mean, as we do events, we learn things. Also, in the first couple of years, there's always going to be more expenses. So, for example, under our floor, or on top of our floor on the arena, we put down plywood. We put a landscape fabric as well, but the plywood's been purchased. So going forward, we don't need as many sheets. We save what we have, reuse what we can. So in the initial years, there's always going to be more expenses. Some things have gone up, some things have gone down. So we actually spend less money on entertainment. It's a bonus. The cabaret is a bonus for people that are coming. We're not going to be able to recoup those costs with a higher ticket sale. So we've reduced the amount of money that we're spending on the entertainment pieces. We're using our own stage, all of our own setup, all of our own equipment in those pieces. There's some pieces for BRC that we do have to rent out, so we don't have portable bleachers, for example, so it is a high expense for us. But where we can cut, we do cut. This past year, we did add in a VIP experience. So there was a little bit more revenue generated from that. So as we do events, we just learn from them and we build on them whenever possible.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Bilodeau? Because I think your question might have been a little more in the opposite. What I heard was we have less revenue in recent years than previous years.
Yes, so from '23, we had a really big bottom line. So kind of what you just explained was we've had to purchase and pay for things, which would explain expenses being higher the last couple of years. But did we purchase all that stuff last year and this year?
I understand your question. So this year there were some differences. So a lot of the food and beverage was run through the lounge itself, and then they took care of the staffing. So the upstairs piece in the lounge, that revenue goes back into the lounge. They're paying the expenses on that. So that's where that one piece is. This year we didn't get a grant. So in previous years we were able to get a grant. This year we didn't. We're going to try again for next year and hope that we get it. The application's already been sent in.
I guess the last thing that I want to say, sorry, is have we learned anything where we can capture more? Like specifically, I think the advertising revenue of $4,500. I'm thinking, I know I was there in one of the VIP experiences, and I'm like, I'm sure that he paid half of that, but there was numerous VIP tables, so it was like, that's low. So I don't know if we're just like we just gave everybody a good deal, or yeah, I just can't, you know, I guess I'm just wondering how we can bring this up, because I love that that we have the impact on the community, but I think we could do even better, really.
So through the chair, this is a partnership agreement. So we don't collect all of the advertising revenue. A large portion of that does go to BRC for the finals event. A lot of the groups that are up there are also season partners. So they support the events throughout the year. And so it could be, some of them are also committee members because BRC does do a number of events in other locations. So it would be committee members that are there as well.
Councillor Iwanicki.
Just a technical question. You may not know the answer to this, but so when we're looking at the economic impact data, where are we generating this number from? I'm just seeing like about almost $1 million in business sales as an example in overall economic activity from this event, which is great. I just don't know how that number's actually come to, if that makes sense.
Sure, through the chair. So we submit all of the information to Travel Alberta. So we submit all the postal code locations of people that are coming. We submit all of our expenditures and revenues, and Bull Riders Canada does the same. And then Travel Alberta comes up with these numbers. So it's not a formula that has been shared with us. That's their own information, and so this is the report that they generate for us. Mm-hmm.
I recall having a conversation in recent years about how we were able to use some of the financial data, specifically from, I don't know, the banking apps, or is any of that factored into this, or is that something else entirely that I am thinking of?
Yeah, that's something.
Maybe explain that better than I just did.
We definitely can. So that is something that we would capture through an economic impact summary for tourism overall, and so that is something that CATA has been working on, and they were able to capture like the Moneris information and stuff that would be very costly, and we could do that if we wanted to, but again, it would be very expensive for us.
In what scenario are we using that, or are we at all?
Yeah, so CATA did that for their project that they just went through. So that information will be coming to council shortly, and Sylvan Lake was included in that, so they were able to capture some of that information.
Okay. And one more, for those that don't know what CATA stands for, could you help me?
Yeah, it's the Central Alberta Tourism Association.
Okay.
I like that you guys are asking questions I know all the answers to today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, are we okay to move on from this?
Council, any additional questions on that topic? Councillor Bilodeau.
Can you tell who the number person is? Banking fees, why were they so high? I was like, what, $3,400?
Yes, through the chair. So that's not just the banking fees through the bank, that is the ticketing software fees included in that.
Because that's new from before. I didn't see fees, so we just did something slightly different with ticketing.
No, the exact same process. It may just have been captured differently or taken off the ticket price.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, seeing no more questions, I think we are okay to carry on.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to move on. One of the things that we heard from council is that they wanted to hear some of the information on how the teacher strike affected some of our programmings and different activities that we had. So we have included that. I want to say it's on page 82. So we were able to add in, or we did add in 37.5 additional hours of public swim times. We had 461 youth participate in the swimming pool area in additional programmings. But of course, because there were no school swimming lessons, those were all canceled. And so we had a reduction of 25 hours of swim lessons that the schools would normally be booking. In programs, we did have additional programming through the teacher strike. Now, we ran some of the day camps through programs out of Nextsource Center, and we also collaborated with the Flipside Youth Center, so we were able to either do programs together or alternate depending on who had space available when. And so we were able to put in additional 153, or had 153 additional people go through. There was about 10 different sessions that we were able to help parents out with their childcare needs.
The loss in swim lessons through the school, was that a true loss or did they rebook at a later date? Or is there any schools that just said, we're out for this year because of that timing? There was.
Yeah, I would say that most of them were canceled. There's very limited additional time to book in the pool during the daytime. We do have a number of schools that come, and when you're putting through multiple classes per grade, there's limited time to be able to accommodate.
Thank you.
The other one that I wanted to turn council's attention to is also the membership. So we did compare the 24 stats to 25. There is a slight difference in the numbers. It's not huge and it's varied throughout, but I did want to bring that to council attention that we did include that information as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions if council has any other ones.
Thank you. Council will open it up to anything within this report. Councillor Ostindi.
Just a question on the Heritage Management grant application. Are we hopeful to get a grant from Alberta government?
Through the chair, yes, we are. Yes, we will bring that. We'll let council know if we are successful in that.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Councillor Iwanicki?
Just in regards to the micro grants, I just want to know how they function in practice. Are those grants like a cash grant, or are they grant like a services in lieu?
Through the chair, it could be both. So when the grant applicant applies, they can apply for gifts in kind, or it could be cash. It is matching. So it's up to $5,000, and depending on what the needs are of that group, we typically will work with them through that process.
Excellent. Seeing no further questions, would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Mearns, thank you.
Making a motion that council accept the 2025 Q4 Recreation, Culture and Tourism reports as presented in AIR 1327.
Wonderful. Any further comment or debate, council? Seeing none, all those in favor and opposed, and that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we will move along to the smoke-free bylaw. Mr. Lebsack, welcome.
Hello, Your Worship and Council. So tonight we were bringing forward the second reading of the smoke-free bylaw. And I will point out right at the start that at the last meeting we did have some discussion with some recommendations for the second reading of the bylaw, which did not get included in the first round of the agenda. So we've provided an update for you there. What I'll do is I'll run through each one of those. There's 3 different additions there. So I'll run through the hard copy for you, just so it's very clear. So under definitions, we've added the word beach as a definition. Means the lakefront area as identified in Departmental Miscellaneous Lease 210029. So the lease in it has an actual map, and so we've included that definition in there, so there's no misunderstanding as to what the area is that we're identifying as beach. As the water goes up and down, more or less sand becomes available. Under 5C, regulation of smoking 5C, we've added that wording in there, the beach, into that clause, 5C. And then we've also added an additional clause, 5D, which states no person shall smoke on a sidewalk along Lakeshore Drive from 44th Street through to 51st Street. Those are the only additions that we have there. You'll also note the highlighted section 9 under exemptions. That has not changed from first reading. So the only 3 changes that are there are the red text. Again, we brought this back for second and possible third reading, and I believe that's what we have. We'll open it up for council's discussion.
Wonderful. We'll start with any questions, council. Councillor Iwanicki.
Just because the map area is a little bit difficult for me to kind of wrap my head around. So with the proposed changes, including sidewalks on the lakeshore area, I'm kind of curious. So you got the sidewalk on the north end of Lakeshore Drive, right? That kind of initial sidewalk, and then a bit of grass, and then another sidewalk. Is that bit of grass in between, is that a park? Is that part of the beach lease? Is that no man's land? How would that be defined in this?
To Councillor Iwanicki, that is part of the current park for the town. I was going through it in my head right now. So everything from the upper sidewalk on the edge of the curb edge of Lakeshore Drive through to the seawall or to the retaining wall there is town park, and we obtained that from the province a few years ago. So that's within our actual town boundaries, and we have title on that. Everything from the retaining wall north, the sand area, the landfill pier, as well as out into the water within that miscellaneous lease, is actually the leased area that we're referring to as the beach.
Sure.
So just for my own sake, so there's no area, let's say from Sweet Home, RIP, but formerly Sweet Home, to Centennial Park, there's no area on that section on the north end of Lakeshore Drive that someone in theory could be smoking on with the bylaw as presented, that they'd be allowed to do so without infringing the bylaw?
No, so currently the way with the new draft of the bylaw here, everything is now included. There are no missed areas or open areas. The town either has title on it, or from that point of title north into the sand is under the miscellaneous lease.
Additional questions, council? I just wanted to float an idea before the motion goes on the floor, and it's really around item 5D. I'm just curious if there's an appetite to extend the sidewalk along Lakeshore Drive from 44th Street to 53rd Street instead of 51st. That just covers the area that the farmers market and the lighthouse would be involved with, which is a higher traffic area. Councillor Iwanicki and then Payne.
And then I'd maybe piggyback off that and say the possibility of extending it up Main Street, kind of to the lights on 50th there.
Councillor Payne.
I think once we get into the debate section, there's a lot more to talk about with that one. I know there's been conversation, so I think let's get it on the floor and then let's jump into D because there's a lot there.
Let's make, if someone would like to make the motion with the, we could just make the motions as is, and then we can talk about those amendments and do those at third reading if we have appetite to do that. Great. Great.
Sorry, just give me a sec here. I make a motion that council approves second reading of smoke-free bylaw of 1942-2026 as presented in report AIR 1306.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Just for ease of conversation, let's talk about anything on the first 3 pages. It's really the beach definition is the proposed change. Is there any council comment or debate?
Yeah, I
Councillor
think, I think the beach definition is good. I am a little concerned about, I think a lot of people will still make the assumption that everything from the curb to the seawall is beach, because beach kind of disappears. What is considered beach from the seawall out, everything north, may not be there next year. You know, so depending on, I know the pier is also as part of that lease, if I'm correct, right? So everything on the pier. So I would like clarity. I would like a way to be able to encompass everything from the curb on Lakeshore all the way out. So it's one understood area. So it's not, I want to understand what beach means, I want to understand what park means, I want to understand what is the pier beach, is the pier park? I think there has to be a way to be able to encompass everything into a common understanding, so it's all of the pieces together.
Councillor Iwanicki.
I think we might be able to accomplish that fairly simply by just changing the definition of beach to like beach in public lands or beach in leased lands or something to that effect. I'm not wedded to any ideal language, but then you're not just using solely the word beach. And then it would encompass the actual physical land that's covered within the lease area.
So maybe I'll just do a check-in with council. Rather than us wordsmith, and I really appreciate the direction you're going there, if that is the will of council for it to be that entire area, I'll get a bit of a yes or a no, or we can have some conversation. And if so, then we can take a recess at some point and have administration provide us with some language options here. Councillor Mearns?
I guess just for clarity, because of 5C, we've got public park, so that is everything from the curb to the retaining wall, and from there it's the beach. So unless I'm wrong, but are we covering of everything? Just clarity, I guess. I don't know.
Mr. Levzak.
Thank you. So from a legal standpoint, from writing this bylaw, that is correct. That's how we're covered. Is everything that is, you know, from the curb of Lakeshore Drive through to the retaining wall is public park, and it's town-owned, and which is kind of where we get into the issue then, is it's town-owned, we have title on that land. Beyond there, which we're classifying now as beach, is actually beyond the town's boundaries. So it's actually within Red Deer County, although we have a departmental miscellaneous lease on it. So that's how we get jurisdiction over that area. So in order, the definition could be done to include both, but it would be a very lengthy definition in order to define beach as that whole area, because it's titled two different titles and within two different municipalities.
I have a question. Could a map be included as a part of the communications and as an appendix to this? Would that, Councillor Payne?
So is that to say then, Ron, that the pier is out of the municipality?
That's correct. So according to the province, so according to the province, the pier is a man-made
Yes,
physical structure
I knew that part.
that is part of the lake. The same, just for clarification, just the same with Lighthouse Park where the old water slide sat. That old property there is considered part of the lake because it was man-made.
Because it doesn't exist.
And according to the province, it is part of the lake. That's why there's lease areas on those sections of what we call land. Yeah.
Yeah, I understood. I understood that it was man-made and that it was part of the lake. But the way you had framed it before was that it was part of Red Deer County, and I'm like, that's kind of a weird thing. But yeah, it's kind of strange. I do think though, if we can somehow, I like the idea of a map, but if we can somehow designate the entire thing as blank, as something, so that people understand from the curb all the way to the water, from 53rd all the way down to 41st, you cannot smoke. Like, if we can make that
Mr. Lebsack?
painfully clear.
Your worship, again, I think we can make that through the definition. We can call it something like lakefront, park, and beach, or something like that. And then means is going to be a very long explanation. So I think we can probably, again, create a definition for it. It's just the actual definition is going to be long. So we can, again, off the top of my head, it could be lakefront, park, and beach, or something like that, is what would then be the definition that would include both parcels of property.
Councillor Ostendi?
I was thinking for a potential definition, create a new term, as Mr. Lebsack was starting to hint at too, is have something like the lakeshore non-smoking zone. And then you define the lakefront no smoking zone as, and then you have all those pieces. So, and then in the bylaw, wherever we need that word, we just say lakefront no smoking zone. Oh, what is that? Oh, go back there and you'll see it's from this street to that street, from this curb to the water's edge. And then we just hope they don't smoke on dinghies and stuff like that.
Councillor Ownicki?
You just, yeah, you alerted me to a potential little weird loophole too. What about the new extended dock area that they're talking about putting out there? Like, is that on the beach? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a designated smoking area, like the old spots in the airport. I don't know, just food for thought. I do think there's some creativity with this. I think it probably is.
So Your worship, just to answer that one, there is everything that we will be doing out there now and in the future in terms of the portable docks and things like that will be within our leased area. We're not going to go beyond our leased area with any of those things. So again, if we go, say, 30 feet out past the end of the dock, that will still be within our leased area. We won't go beyond that with anything that we do.
Hate to create a floating smoking zone that's like the best landscape in town. Councillor Bilodeau?
I just want to clarify, because when you mentioned the 51st going to 53rd.
Just hang tight on that
Okay.
one. Let's finish up on these first 3 pages and then we'll move on to
Okay.
that, if that's okay.
That is part of the, oh, because it's the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I actually didn't refer to the sidewalk. That's why I'm mentioning it. You made that comment, but what I want to make sure is that we're embracing the farmer's market area, which is now the man-made structure, which is actually the beach. Is that part of the if we're extending it that far, we specifically want that area as well. Is that part of our beach area? No.
But
So,
it would be a municipal park space, so already.
okay,
Yeah.
that's all. I wanted to make sure that, because you referred to that, and that is an area we want to make sure there's no smoking, so it's, where does that get covered under? Okay,
Yeah.
so park space.
I see Ms. Phillips and Mr. Lebsack giving conflicting head movements, so.
So section 5C does state in there a public market. So not only do we have it in this part of the no smoking bylaw, but I also believe the provincial regulation state that there's no smoking at a farmer's market.
But just to be clear, in my thoughts, I'm thinking not only when the market is actively taking place. That lot is just not an appropriate place. And I'm mostly thinking the other side of the building there. But we host events, we do all kinds of different things. They're not necessarily all markets. Yes.
Okay, so just to clarify that again, so that would be, unless there's an actual event taking place in there, that's classified as a parking lot.
Okay.
So any given, call it Sunday, when somebody's just parking their vehicle there, that currently is allowed smoking area.
Both sides of the building?
Just the parking lot side.
Okay, the other
Yes,
side, though, is still covered.
Yes, the, whatever we want to call it, northeast side, where the grass is, no, that's a park.
Okay.
That's a public park, so it is prohibited there.
Got it. Thank you. Ms. Phillips, did that answer your comment?
I was thinking the same thing, that the parking lot's not a park, and wanted to make sure we were clear on that, so, perfect.
Thank you. Okay, on this first page, we're okay with a revised definition, Councillor Payne?
Just the stretch of property that leads to the lighthouse is also a park, I would assume. Yeah, thanks.
Great. We'll leave that for now. Let's go on to the next couple of pages. Really, the big change proposed is item number 5D. I've shared my comments. I'd like that to extend to 53rd. Does anyone else have an opinion either way? Councillor Mearns?
Yeah, I would support the 53rd for sure.
Councillor
Yeah, I
Bilodeau?
would support that as well. And that, because of that reason, it lines up with the whole water slide area.
Oh, Nikki?
Yeah, I think I said in my email to council, I said something like from the go-karts onward, so that's right around 53rd, so I'm fine with that.
And you also had the comment about 50th. Is that something that we have an appetite to talk about? Councillor Awaniki.
Did I forget to use my mic? Oh, oopsie doodle. Yeah, I was saying about the go-karts. I would like to see this, the Main Street 50th, you know, basically to the set of lights there as being a similar restriction, just because it is heavily trafficked. And it's the same idea. It's not a park, but.
Sure. Councillor Ostindi, thoughts on either of those two?
I can definitely support the Lakeshore Drive that we're talking about, extending from these words, draft words. I voiced that thought that it makes sense to be on Main Street as well. I'm trying to think of the pragmatic situation of how do smokers smoke, as much as I don't want to build a
Just
cigar.
to interrupt.
Oh, sorry. Here I am saying about microphones, thanks.
Good
I definitely, good call. I can support the idea of the extension on the amended words, draft wording here to 53rd. I generally support the idea of the extension up in the Main Street, up to 50th Avenue, though I'm trying to think of what's the pragmatic solution for people who smoke. We have talked about alleyways, et cetera, because I know we have to have a pragmatic way that people can deal with their addictions. And so, so I'm thinking about that is, are we, you know, how far are we pushing it? I like the idea of pushing it, for sure. And I'll make one other comment too. I find myself in a bit of dilemma here because I believe we will have one vote on this amended bylaw. And I have serious concerns with one section, but I want to be productive about the debate here and support the best wording I believe possible. But I am very conflicted with voting for what we are packaging together. Bit of an omnibus bill, and that's my struggle too.
Ms. Phillips, do you have any advice for us on how to split two important sections? Because you can't split within a bylaw.
Mm-hmm. I think you'd have to come to a decision on what's going to be in what is being proposed for the second reading, what amendments will be included. Because you're right, you can't split the vote on a reading of a bylaw, so.
I can ask that question separately, even though it won't be a vote, and help us
You
get
could
to
come to a
somewhere.
consensus on what should be in the second
Consensus.
reading and then vote on that in the reading, whether all of this is in there or if certain sections are actually removed.
Okay.
Yeah. Or the other option would be to leave it in. If we can't get there, do the second reading. And if it fails, then we'd be back to square one.
Okay, I think I
But
can
we can
walk
still
us
come
through
back
that.
at a future date with the other changes.
Thank you. Councillor Johannesson, your thoughts on item D there?
Yeah, I think nothing really important to add. I think that's the right thing to do. Extending it to 53rd Street is good. I will say, when you said floating smoke zone, that has some sort of kind of nice ring to it. So, not that I would ever encourage that, but it sounds kind of cool. But no, I have nothing really to add. I agree with you.
And just to check up 50th, are you opposed or?
No,
in
no,
favor?
you mean to, yeah, I think like I'd want to be as restrictive to smoking as we could be, to be honest. There's the differentiation too between like, I don't know if we could do this, the differentiation between like cigarettes and vapes. I don't like either. The Fruit Loop smell of vapes drives me nuts, but they don't leave litter, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking, I mean, I'm fine leaving it as is, but I could be, in my mind, I could be a little more lenient on the vape part of it, because the big concern for me is with cigarettes is just the litter that it leaves. But I'm totally fine with extending it as put.
Thank you. Councillor Payne, your thoughts on both of those questions within there?
I like the idea of going to 53rd. I like the idea, like, to be honest, when I envisioned the whole Lakeshore piece, I was envisioning all the way to 32nd. The boardwalk going all the way down. So I'm perfectly fine with this. I'm perfectly fine with the way it goes. I'm not sure how I feel. I think I need to hear more about the rationale behind going up Centennial. I think that if we enforce the bylaw, the way the bylaw is currently written along 50th, there's very few spaces for somebody to be able to stop and smoke. You know, on the left hand or on the west or east side of the street, for that first little piece there where the old Sylvan Lake Hotel was, you know, possibly. But, you know, I don't know how I feel about that. And I think the difficulty I have with moving up Centennial Street is the disposition of moving beyond that. And I think there's some difficulty in moving beyond that. So I have no issue with going to 53rd. Like I said, I would love to go to 32nd. But the other, I'm still a little iffy on.
Okay, I'm going to start back around a little bit. Councillor Mearns.
Yeah, I just didn't get an opportunity to speak to the up Centennial Street. It's not something that I would support, I don't think. I look at our enforcement, and I look at the enforcement going across Lakeshore and the staffing that we're going to have along Lakeshore, whether that's foot, whether that's UTVs or side-by-sides. When I think of enforcement up Centennial Street, is the expectation, if we have a bylaw, for bylaw to stop, pull over on the side of the road and give someone a ticket. So I guess the enforcement side of it is the reason why I'm not, wouldn't want to pursue going up 50th Street.
And I'll just note, we do parking enforcement up that street already,
Sure.
so they would be doing patrols.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
understand that, but yeah.
No for that. No. Councillor Bilodeau, yes or no for up 50th?
I see the argument there. If we're already ticketing for parking, why wouldn't we also ticket for? So I'll say I support it.
Okay. Nikki, you are a yes. Anything else to add?
I mean, I'll just piggyback off what Councillor Payne said. I think he's right. I think there's like you'd be walking 5 feet and you'd be allowed to smoke there, and if you walked another 5 feet, you wouldn't be allowed to. So the way the bylaw is worded right now is fairly restrictive on that street. So if there was a concern about, I don't know, going too far, it's already there. I do want it on that street just for clarity's sake, if nothing else, because as I mentioned previously, I find having to figure out measuring, like I think I said, the length of an F-150 is 5 meters roughly. So it's like, what's a bylaw officer supposed to do with that? I have no idea. And then if I can just add one additional.
Yes. Is it on the extension on Councillor Payne?
No, there's something
Okay,
Councillor
yeah.
Jennison said just about the smoke. So the definition of smoke and smoking does include electronic cigarettes and vapes. So I don't know if that just clarifies for him in any way, shape, or form about that.
Okay. I am a yes for going up 50th. I'm just going to go a quick yes or no so we can get a bit of a direction on that. Councillor Cindy, were you a yes or a no?
I'll say yes.
Okay.
I'll say a yes, and thinking about the 32nd Street, because there's only a sidewalk on the park side, it's covered then, because it's in park property, once we get past 44th.
I'm going to come back around for that extension just so that I can get a bit of a tally here. Councillor Johannesson, were you a yes or no for 50th?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And
So
Councillor
are
Payne?
we, when we're talking about 50th Street, we're talking about the sidewalk on 50th Street, right? But you got to remember on 50th Street, on Centennial, on that side of the tracks, there are 4 alleyways. So somebody really could just literally step off onto the alleyway and not be in violation of the bylaw. So, I think the difficulty there is going to be that piece of the enforcement. With that being said, if it's in the bylaw and somebody can enforce not having somebody smoke on that corner, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay, so I'm hearing a yes generally?
A yes, generally.
Great. Mr. Levesque, you have a point there.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I heard a few comments around enforcement, and I just want to, we've definitely had this conversation up at the office, and I just would be remiss if I didn't bring forward their concerns, or maybe not concerns, but their comments that by taking smoking off of Lakeshore Drive or in front of the businesses, I don't think we can assume that people are going to quit smoking. What we're going to do is push them into the back alleys, which we just heard. And so just to be aware that there will be much more traffic in dark areas in dark times of the evening in the back alley in behind Lakeshore Drive businesses. So just, again, that's one of the things that our enforcement officers was top of mind for them, is that, oh, we're pushing this into the back alley then instead of on the street where it's well lit and we have street lights. So I just wanted to bring that up as just another kind of way of looking at the situation.
Thank you. Okay, let's do one more round just because I want to make sure we touch on Councillor Payne's suggestion of just extending that even further to 32nd, I think was your suggestion. Is that what I heard?
My feeling about that is like I walk that quite frequently. And I know that when I walk it, there's usually the same dozen people that walk it as well. So I know that area from 44th all the way down to 32nd is very well traveled. I have, on occasion, walked through clouds of vape smoke, and it's frustrating. Granted, I've also on occasion walked through clouds of spider webs. So you're not going to ban spiders. I would like to see it go all the way to 32nd. For that reason, I'm not sure people are going to understand that area adjacent to the boardwalk there, that sidewalk there, is park. I think they may recognize that some of the areas are park-like, but I'm not sure they're going to recognize it's park. So I would like to see it changed to 32nd.
We're going to try and do this as a speed round if everyone can stay as close to just a yes or a no as possible.
Sorry for taking all that
No, that's
time.
okay. You're the one who introduced that thought, so I think that's great. We'll go in reverse. Councillor Johannesson.
Yeah.
Okay. Host Indy?
No. No included in the park space. Better signage.
I'm a yes. Councillor Awanicki?
Yes, I want to extend it.
Great. Councillor Bilodeau?
Yes, I want to extend it.
Councillor Mearns?
Question first,
Yes.
32nd or 34th?
Is it 32nd where the old Silver Lake provincial sign was?
34th, rough. 32nd, it goes into the Kennebec area.
34th.
Okay.
I'll look for your answer, and then I'll say, does that change it for anything, your previous vote? Seeing no. Okay. Councillor Mearns?
34th, yes.
Great. Okay, we have some direction on that one. We will take a recess after this reading, and we'll make sure we allow enough time, but council consensus is yes to extend to 34th, and yes to extend up 50th, was what I heard from that round. Councillor Mearns?
And to 53rd. 34th.
Yes, yes. Yes, we were. Yes. Checking the votes. Okay, let's carry on. Now we will move on to cigar lounges, council. Would anyone like to debate or converse? Councillor Payne, thank you.
I'm not in favor of smoking in any capacity, whether it's you know, whether it's a bar like this, a lounge, or on the street, or whatever the case is, I just don't think it's a necessary thing for most people. But I also know that for men's mental health, sometimes these minor vices are therapeutic. And I do think that this is not one of those things where you're going to have 12-year-olds happen into a cigar lounge. It's going to be adults that can make their own decisions and put themselves in harm's way if that's what they desire, no different than going to a bar or going to some other adult facility. So as long as the understanding is very clear that it is an adult facility and that it's treated the same as like the regulation is very clear, then I'm fine with keeping it. I can't see this becoming a real common piece throughout the province, but I'm okay with it.
Councillor Johannesson.
Yeah, I've obviously made my stance clear on this before, but I'll reiterate it. The big part for me is I understand how men work, and I've seen how these types of things, these gatherings, especially as we get older, like I said before, we lose contact, you know, family, work, all that stuff. We lose contact with hanging out with our men, which is incredibly important for our mental health as a male species. And I understand that women smoke cigars too, but I would imagine it would be majority men that go to these places. The other thing is I didn't run for politics, and I said this in my forum speech back in 2021. I didn't run for politics to police people's bodies and to police people's choices. People are going to smoke regardless if we have a indoor lounge or not. We're debating here, you know, trying to make sure that we give certain areas where people can still smoke outdoors, which directly affects the public. So I think it would be hypocritical of us to then say, well, but we don't want to have a closed space that actually doesn't affect the public because it's people that choose to be there to smoke. So if we're going to say no to a cigar lounge, then we should be saying no to smoking at every single inch of Sylvan Lake. But of course, we're not going to do that because, you know, we understand that. But outdoors affects public, indoors does not. I can see places where maybe there's less outdoor smoking if people have a place to go indoors and to do that. We also would be hypocritical to not shut down all the bars and the liquor stores. I don't think we're in a position as a council to tell anybody. We can have our opinions on what people should do, and trust me, like the people that I coach in my nutrition stuff that I do, not smoking and not drinking is the #1 thing that I try to get people to do. But that's a completely separate job that I have. So I think for us, we can't be hypocritical and look at what we have and what we offer and then say, but this we're going to say, no, you can't do that because council has decided that you're not allowed to do that. I think that's wrong. I think it's inappropriate. I don't think it's a good use of our powers. I don't like saying that word because it sounds weird, but as council. And I also think we're missing a little bit that I think is important with this cigar lounge is a unique place that isn't around in Alberta except for one place. And I think that can bring in more tourists to a business. I also don't think we should be policing businesses that want to come here. We've got 800 pizza shops and 350 liquor stores, and like the weed shops are popping up all over the place. So business is good. If a business owner wants to take a risk and spend enormous amounts of money to build something like this, I think that we aren't in a place, without being hypocrites, to stop that. I think that if people want to go to this place, they will, and if they don't, they won't. And I'd much rather people go to a place, because personally, I don't like smelling smoke of any kind. like I said, I hold my breath in the laundry aisle. I don't like smelling car exhaust. I don't like breathing in anything that could potentially harm me. This isn't going to harm me, and it's not going to harm people that aren't going there. And maybe it will help with the outdoor smoking. So I think it's a net positive for mental health. You can't have physical health without good mental health. And I think that's an important thing to say. So to say, well, this is going to harm your physical health, and we as a council, we don't want you to do that. If you've got good physical health and bad mental health, you don't have good physical health. And I think you have to have both to be ultimately healthy, and that's what I strive to do in my personal life. And I think this is a net benefit and positive for the mental health of especially men who are under-serviced in this town. We don't have a lot to do. So yeah, I'm in full support of this, not from any personal level, but from a level of the people of Sylvan Lake, the business community, the tourism it can bring in, and the mental health that we have. And I just don't want to police people's bodies, and I don't want to be a hypocrite in what we're doing in Sylvan Lake. So I do support the cigar lounge opportunity.
Councillor Cindy.
Sure, I'll share a few thoughts too. Just thinking about, you know, the fact that the province has given us this decision because they wrote the laws. So here we are trying to balance out our values and say what is the right decision in our mind. I gave my mom a call today and I said, remind me of my opa, Jacob Scheltes, and my grandfather. And I said, tell me about the cigar story. And she shared, oh yeah, you mean how you went to the cigar shop, and because there was really no other place. During the war time, fairly new to the community, during the war you didn't go to places where Nazis would pick you up and make you forced labor. So you avoided a lot of places, and a lot of places were closed, like libraries and rec centers, and they didn't even have rec centers in the sense that we have rec centers. So he would go to the cigar shop and talk and smoke cigars. And that was his social life. And directly after the war, he read the news article that smoking caused cancer. That's what it looked like, despite all the fake news of those days. Fake news has been around forever from tobacco companies that it was okay. Anyway, he quit apparently that day. But unfortunately, he had cancer. And 5 years after having that discovered, he passed, which is why I don't know him. And when I thought about that mental health piece, I thought, whose mental health? Was it his wife's mental health? My mother? Her sister? Her brother? Or even me never knowing a grandfather? And so I thought about the mental health that is impacted by the collective deaths of our loved ones. And that informs me greatly, and that's where I'm at in this debate. I can't support a cigar lounge. I won't. I can make it better wording, like I think a worker should not go in there for at least 15 minutes after the last person smoked. You know, like I think that would be better wording. But I still will not support that wording because I can't support that notion that whose mental health are we protecting? And do we have healthier ways for men to gather? And I choose those healthier ways. And I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Awaniki.
Well, I'm going to start with my deepest apologies to Councillor Estindi for suggesting adding other language to the other portion of this bylaw, because now we're having a problem where there's two substantive portions of the bylaw where there's support on one side and not the other, and that complicates things. So my apologies there. I'll just make a passing comment on the worry I have, or the concern I have about a potential conflation between cigar smoking socially on occasion and cigarette smoke. I think it's you know, smoking cigarettes is a thing where a person's pounding a pack a day on a regular basis, day in, day out. And myself, I enjoy a cigar, I'd say probably once every 3 years, 2 years, something like that. It's infrequent. So I look at it from that perspective and say, oh, you know, I think this is cool. I might go to a here and there. I don't think it's something necessarily that would be frequented on the regular, but that's just me looking at it from my own personal bias on things, because I second basically everything that's kind of come on this side of the tables. I don't think it's good. I don't think liquor stores are good. I don't think weed shops are good. I don't think vaping is good. I don't think straight bars and nightclubs are good, but you know, it's not my job to pass my morality on these things. The province has ultimately allowed us to do this, and I think that's where my head goes, is if we're allowed to do it, see what happens. It's, to echo what Councillor Johansson said, I think it's hypocritical to say, oh, but we're gonna let weed shops in, you know, but not a cigar lounge. What's the difference in my mind? They're both social ills, I think. So anyway, no disrespect to anybody who enjoys any of those things. I think we'd be a better world if we got rid of some stuff. But anyway. Jazz. No. Yeah, so I support it passing despite not necessarily thinking it's a good idea. I know that sounds weird, but.
Councillor Bilodeau.
I have very mixed opinions on this, and I think what it comes down to is I think that we have been given this opportunity, so I feel the easiest thing for me to say is if this business could, if it wanted to open in town and we were to allow it to do it, and they can actually do everything that we're outlining that they have to do in order for it to be open, then that's fair. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to go against everybody by saying I don't want this, because I just think it's, yeah. And it becomes my personal opinion, and I'm trying to think about it as a business and how it affects Sylvan Lake, which is important. So I'm in neutral territory. I don't know which way to go with this. I'm struggling with how to vote. But I also feel that if they could just meet all the criteria to have this open, then it would be okay for them to give it a shot. I mean, it kind of sounds funny. I feel like I'm not standing up for what I feel, but I'm also thinking about what it could bring to Sylvan Lake. So it's multifaceted. So what do you want me to say?
I do need a yes or no to help us get somewhere. So whatever one of those you'd like.
Yeah, so I can't say I'm in neutral territory. Okay, so I lean towards, all right, as a yes. Okay. Because it's hard for me to say and wish them luck with, you know, meeting all the standards that they have to do. And if they can do that, then I say good luck.
Councillor Mearns, so sorry to put you through that. Councillor Bilodeau.
You know, great conversation around the table. I can empathize with Councillor Stindy and what he's standing by. And when I look at it through the lens, I'm looking at it business-wise, businesses coming into our community. It's a choice to go into this facility. There's no minors allowed. If you want to be employed at that business, then that's a choice as well. And so, you know, I talked about it in my campaign about, you know, commercial development and businesses coming to town. And so, you know, it's something that I can definitely support, understanding that there's a lot of elements to this that the business owner has to do at quite the cost. You know, our own idea, but if it's something that they want to proceed with, the province allows us to do this. I wouldn't want to, you know, as a member of council to say no just because I don't like the idea of it. So something I definitely support.
I'll end with my thoughts, although I think I've made them quite apparent through my earlier discussions, some of my emails. I believe that smoking should be banned in any place that is accessible to the public. Not everyone here was on the email chain. I'd like to ban it on every sidewalk anywhere in Sylvan Lake because I don't want me and my family to walk through a cloud of smoke. I do feel differently about a private contained business. That is your choice. You are doing so, hopefully, being informed these days about why that is good or bad for your health, and I have less objection to this than I do in any other public place. So for me, there are some wins through the edits to this bylaw. I'm okay to support it as is because we've also strengthened the other areas, and that's really where my heart is. So I'm a yes on this one. So to move us forward, we have a motion on the floor for second reading. We know we've got some amendments that we're looking at, but I believe we could pass it as is, or at least vote as is, and then we'll take a longer than normal recess to give some time to come back with some wording so that we can look at that for third reading. Is that reasonable, Ms. Phillips?
So you want to do second reading as per what's in the agenda, not what was debated?
How would you like us to do this?
It's up to you. We can do
second
as amended to include those changes, or if you want it
It's
clear.
only because I didn't have the wording.
Yeah.
Is why I was holding off on saying including in second reading.
Yeah, we could
Councillor
do
Payne.
that.
I think because we're not pressed on this, I think if we do second as is, do the amendments for third, and I think that would be the appropriate way to do it. To amend the second reading is kind of unnecessary because we still have a reading. So I think second as is with the additions and changes, and then move third. But I also don't think we should do third today.
That was part of my question, is if you wanted it amended, do you want to come back and do third, or do you come back to the next meeting to do third, which also gives, as this impacts businesses, it does give that opportunity for it to become public and then get more feedback before third. It's
I'll
up to
say if
council.
that is the case, I would prefer to do second reading with amendments.
That's-
To allow.
Yes.
I just would like to see that one amendment. So I guess, can we take a recess before we pass the motion?
Yes, we can do that.
Great. Council, let's take a minimum of 15 minutes of a recess right now. If we need longer, please let us know. Anyone listening at home, we may extend that and we'll ensure that we get some writing available to us, and if we could, even up on the screen for that one clause. And
Yes.
we'll come back. Great. We are
We'll
in
work on
recess.
that.
Thank you, Council. Of 15 minutes. I'm impressed. Thank you very much for your hard work, administration. Can you please walk us through what's on the screen for those of us that don't have the greatest of eyesight? Mr. Lebsack, what do we see there?
All right, Your Worship. I'll just first point out that that was my awesome typing skills that got that done within 15 minutes. So.
I had no doubt, yes.
So the definition has been changed now to lakefront no smoking zone. Means the lakefront area to include town property from Lakeshore Drive north to the departmental miscellaneous lease, 210029, and the area identified in the departmental miscellaneous lease, 210029. So that's the new definition. Inside the regulation 5C, we've replaced the word the beach with the term lakefront no smoking zone. And 5D, the definition is now, or the additional item there is now, no person shall smoke on a sidewalk along Lakeshore Drive from 34th Street through to 53rd Street and Centennial Street from Lakeshore Drive through to 50th Avenue. And then the motion there just reads that council approves second reading of the smoke-free bylaw 1942-2026 as presented in report AIR 306 as amended to include the definition of lakefront no smoking zone and to prohibit smoking on sidewalks along Lakeshore Drive from 34th Street to 53rd Street and on Centennial Street to 50th Avenue.
Thank you. Council, do we have any feedback, comments? Feeling comfortable? Ms. Phillips, yes.
So we just need Councillor Payne to agree to amend the bylaw as read, and council to agree to that amendment. Informally is fine.
Council, how do we feel about Councillor Payne's new motion? Okay, great. All right, we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Payne. Last call for any comments. It's exactly what is in that bottom paragraph. As amended, yes. Okay, thank you. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Council, I heard that we don't have an appetite to go to third reading tonight, or do we? Councilor Mearns.
I would like to suggest we do, as this is business impacting for the business owner. As we know, the facility is not set up this way, and it will take some time. So I would entertain third reading.
Great. Any other, council? I'm just referring to my notes on what happens when we have differences of opinion on third reading. Do you know the answer before I get there? If not.
Well, any councillor could make a motion for third reading. But if it's defeated, that would be the concern. So I think you'd want to know that everyone's comfortable moving forward.
I think the difficulty with going to third reading when you've amended the second is we're the only ones who see this.
Sorry, if I could make one more comment. I appreciate your comments, Councillor Mearns. The other part is we're only doing first reading of the land use bylaw amendment. So nothing can happen until there's a public hearing anyway. So I think we have lots of time to do third if council wants to wait.
Okay.
Disregard my comment.
Would anyone else feel really passionate about third reading tonight? Seeing none? Great. Let's carry on. We will see this back at our next meeting. Next up, we'll move along to bylaw 1944-2026, land use bylaw. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So my report tonight is for Council to consider granting first reading to bylaw 1944-2026, an amendment to the land use bylaw to add a new use category for a cigar lounge within the waterfront commercial district and set a public hearing date. A business proponent has expressed interest in developing an indoor cigar lounge as part of a redevelopment at 5000 Lakeshore Drive, located in the waterfront commercial district. Neither the current land use bylaw nor the smoke-free bylaw had allowed for indoor cigar smoking. Therefore, amendments were required to both these bylaws before a development permit for this use could be considered. The waterfront commercial district is intended to support a range of commercial uses, including tourism-oriented businesses that help contribute to a vibrant downtown. A cigar lounge is a niche adult activity that could help support the downtown tourism economy. If approved, the town would be among a very few municipalities in Alberta that allow such establishments. As a bit of background, in 2021, the province made a specific exemption for cigar lounges in the Alberta Tobacco, Smoking, and Vaping Reduction Regulations. The exemption is specific to the indoor smoking of cigars, provided that conditions are met, namely that the cigar lounge is not accessible to minors, is completely physically and visually separated from adjacent non-smoking areas, and the cigar lounge has a separate ventilation system that exhausts air from the cigar lounge directly to the outside of the building and not other indoor areas. So earlier this evening, we discussed the amendments to the smoke-free bylaw, and while first reading for the land use bylaw amendment could proceed independently, the smoke-free bylaw update will help ensure the regulatory framework is aligned for Council's consideration of the proposed land use bylaw changes. So the proposed changes include adding new definitions for cigar and cigar lounge that ensure alignment with the provincial regulations and that indoor smoking lounges are a separate and distinct use. The amendment also proposes additional requirements under the supplementary regulations specific to a cigar lounge that focus on impact mitigation, including consideration of the exhaust system placement to avoid impacts on public spaces and adjacent properties, includes that a cigar lounge include a filtration system designed to minimize odors at the exhaust outlet that may impact the public using adjacent walkways and open spaces, as well as site-specific limitation for a cigar lounge at 5000 Lakeshore Drive. Any future proposal elsewhere would require another land use bylaw amendment and Council's approval, preventing unintended proliferation of this type of use. A cigar lounge would be listed as a discretionary use on the parcel, giving the development authority oversight on compliance for specific ventilation and physical separation requirements. So the next steps following first reading and setting the public hearing date include that administration will circulate the proposed bylaw to internal departments and external agencies. Any comments received from the referral will be included in the second reading report. The public hearing will be advertised in the Sylvan Lake News and on the town's website. And if the bylaw is ultimately approved, the proponent must submit a development permit application. Administration respectfully recommends that Council grant first reading to bylaw 1944-2026 and set a public hearing date for March 10th, 2026. This concludes my presentation, and the resolution is before you in your agenda package. Thank you.
Thank you. Council will start with any questions. Seeing none, would someone like to put forward the two motions I believe could be tied together? Councilor Mearns, thank you.
Make a motion that council grant first reading to bylaw 1944-2026 as presented in AIR 1325, being a bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 1695-2015, and the council set March 10th, 2026 at 4 p.m. in council chambers of the municipal government building as the date, time, and place for this public hearing on bylaw 1944-2026.
Excellent, thank you. Any comments or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor and opposed, and that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we'll move along to community hub appointments. Councillor Payne, do you want to introduce this one? I didn't prep him that I was going to ask him to do that. It's okay, I can take it. Councillor Payne has a work conflict, so we're looking to replace his appointment on the community hub.
So what happened is when I was appointed to this in October, I taught Block 1 and Block 3. So I was able to go to these meetings at 10 o'clock. And they're always on the first Wednesday of the month. Now, in the second semester, my schedule has been changed. And now I teach Block 2 and Block 4. So I can't go to the meetings. Now, I could take the morning off, but I have another extenuating circumstance, and that is the meetings are on the same time as the division office meetings for the administration at the school. when the admin are not on site, I'm admin. So I'm in a situation where I can't leave the building. So it simply can't fit. Like I can't go to the community hub meetings.
Councillor Payne, for clarity, is it the first Wednesday of the month or the second?
Sorry, second Wednesday.
Second, thank you. Because that has a conflict with another meeting, so it would change. Great, so we already have Councillor Ostindi as one representative. We're looking for someone to replace Councillor Payne, and I'll open it up. Does anyone have availability?
Sorry, the second Wednesday of the month?
Second Wednesday of the month.
Conflict with Chambers, wouldn't it? Or am I thinking of the wrong day? Chambers Thursday.
Is that, okay. Now let me throw one more option. We know that daytime committee meetings are a real challenge for us. I do wonder if we might have to consider a conversation with the community hub, going down to 1 plus an alternate. I know they requested 2. Is that an option, I guess? It is an internal committee.
Or a different time. Like if the meeting was a little bit later, I could do it. But I can't do 10 o'clock. Like I'm in class from 10 until 11:40. So, and like I said, well, actually it doesn't matter for me because it's the Wednesdays, I'm sorry.
Ms. Phillips.
So Community Hub, it's an internal committee. It's your committee. So I think if, I mean, it would be respectful to reach out to them and say, you know, due to conflicts, we're unable to accommodate, but we'd like to have 1 plus an alternate, and I think that would be fine. Or make that suggestion if they'd like more commitment, we could work with them on a different time. But does that create conflicts for all the other committee groups that are coming, I guess, is the only question.
As I was talking through my situation, it's the Wednesday. I can't be out of the school on the second Wednesday of the month, so.
So it'd have to be a different time anyway. So I think 1 is not not terrible, no.
Sure. No. Councillor Ostindi and then Iwanicki.
I was just going to ask the question of Councillor Bilodeau, ability to be the regular member, and then whether we have or don't have an alternate, maybe there's less conflict in that.
I'll let you chime in if you'd like.
I will say I did actually contact the mayor to say, oh, I want to help Jazz out because I think I'd like to do this, but I'm already the alternate. So it's like, so the question is, do I not give up the alternate and I become the second member? And then is the assumption then that the committee has to be okay then if one of us can't make it, there is no alternate, I guess.
Sure. Councillor Iwanicki.
I doubt my business partner is watching right now, but if he is, I'm sorry. I could be an alternate for it. It's a constant struggle to find daytime availability, and I have to move things constantly, which is a issue that I deal with, my cross to bear. But I could be the alternate for it on the assumption if there would be the occasion where even as an alternate, I'd be like, I just can't move this thing. And then there's a little bit more coverage.
And the only thing I will say, just to have all our cards out on the table, is I will say Councillor Bilodeau has the heaviest council workload. Already without a single change, only because a couple of the committees that she sits on, 2 of them, are quite intensive. I would venture a guess to say it's a weekly workload for 2 of your committees right now with some work in between. So I just want to lay that out as we're making some shuffles that I want to make sure that full disclosure here.
And to circle back, there's one committee I'm on that may not be on anymore that's a daytime once per month. So that may free up some time for me too. Just keep in mind.
That's fair. Yeah, we do have one appointment that looks, it may be over in April, so that would help. Councillor Bilodeau.
What if Councillor Iwanicki took over for Jazz and I stayed as the alternate then? Is that an option? Tomorrow. I can fill in as the alternate.
Okay.
I will have to cut out a couple of minutes early because I do have an appointment. I can't switch, but it's very.
So the second Wednesday every month? What is a conflict with? I knew there was a conflict. It conflicts with Kate.
So you really can't be the alternate until our CAPE appointment?
Until that gets decided.
Yeah.
But then if Kate frees up, then, look at me, I already have that time blocked out, so I could definitely do it then.
So what about this as an option? Potentially, we move Councillor Bilodeau into the position, Councillor Iwanicki as the alternate, knowing that we've got 2 months that we've got to juggle that through. We could consider readjusting, and I will say, I also can act as an alternate without being appointed as an alternate. Unfortunately, the next 2 months, I do have another meeting conflicting with that date. But maybe we could work as a team of 4. I do also think it would be wise for us to have a conversation with that committee and say, you know, our commitment is we will send a minimum of 1 counselor. We'd like you to know why. It's not because we have any less value on this committee. We're just, it's daytime and our councils have a full workload so that they have an understanding, and we know that we'd like to minimally have 1 person attend. And maybe plant that seed of the conflict for us. And if they're really interested in having a second really committed person, then it might have to look like a change in time, or they might say, that's fine, 1's enough, and kind of look for some feedback for them. Councillor Bilodeau, how do we feel about that?
I'm willing to step in, especially if we can just say it for a couple of months and potentially have Joe be the alternate. You know, it's, yeah. I think it's important to have that representation, and I don't want to start asking committees to move the time because that affects everybody. They've been there probably longer. I think if I understand maybe the workload isn't exceptionally high for this, that would be big for me because that's the problem I have with the committees that I'm.
Other than your report of that committee, there doesn't tend to be any between work, but that's a great point. They actually did just move this because Thursday we had 3 other conflicts and it was chamber and other thing and there wasn't anyone left. So they have been flexible and that just hasn't improved our daytime situation. So I do still think that the letter might be appropriate just to let them know it's a priority. There's only 7 of us.
I'm also willing to take a trade. Like if somebody has something that they think that I could fill in at a different time, do another committee, I'm willing to do that as well. I don't just want to offload. I'm absolutely willing to take something else on. Do you want to think about it?
I can't get rid of Kate because I'm on the executive. I can't pass that off.
And there's a shortened time frame. Councillor Bilodeau.
And I would love to trade, but I don't think I have anything that you could attend because of the time constraints. So.
And I'll also flag 2 just moving conversations that one I know we'll be having and one that I'd like to have. One is a notice of motion tonight that White consider limiting our workload for a very low commitment committee. But also I do believe at some point this year we should probably have a conversation around MPC. Just with the frequency of meetings, the concerns we've heard from those that are on it that don't feel like their skills are being valued, and there might be some changes there, and that would really change our council load, having 2 committees potentially narrowed down. And I think at that point then we look at the whole list and see what does the balance look like as well. Okay, I hear some willingness. Thank you, Councillor Bilodeau and Councillor Iwanicki. Please include me in the chain of conversation if there's anything that I can also sub in to help fulfill that commitment for the next short term. Great, I may as well read the motion that's in front of me. I'll move that Council replace Councillor Jazz Payne on the Sylvan Lake Community Hub Board and appoint Councillor Bilodeau as the Town of Sylvan Lake representative with Councillor Iwanicki as the alternate for a term to begin on February 11th, 2026 and end on October 20th, 2026. And I'll just add the added clause if I could work with administration to have this notification contained within a letter. But Councillor Bilodeau, I did hear you're okay to attend tomorrow's meeting for as long as you're able, and if you can ensure that she has any agenda items that are required. Great, we have a motion on the floor. Great work. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, move along to correspondence and information items. We've got a number in front of us. Is there any questions or comments on that list? Any additional items? Councillor Ostindi?
Just going to say thank you to Planning and Development for the solar panel stats. It was higher than I thought in our town. Approximately 2% of our homes have solar panels now in the last 3 years. And 17% of them, the highest numbers in Hewlett Park.
Thank you.
Rough count.
Excuse me. Okay, next we'll move along to, we don't have anything under council request for information and updates, so we'll move along to notices of motion. And I am first, so let me get there. And both of these items are up for conversation and decision tonight. So my notice of motion is that council direct administration to bring forward a review of the terms of reference for the Emergency Advisory Committee, including council's consideration of restructuring the committee from selected council appointments to the full council, with updates provided during governance and priorities meetings annually or more frequently as required. I'll just explain my rationale. This committee meets once or twice a year. Typically, it's great information. It's great information that I'd love for all of council to see, and quite often our feedback in that is, great, how do we get this to the rest of council? So you're basically just hearing the plan twice. It's not a high workload. I do think it is of something that should be of interest to all of council, and we did expand, although we've been heavy on the meetings post-election, there's lots of other things in budget that need to happen on the nights we're together. I do expect that workload to slightly lessen with those additional meetings that we've added in the future. So it shouldn't be too difficult to find an annual or a couple times a year time that this works. But really, the request is to bring forward some information to us. Any questions? All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Iwanicki.
Yeah, my motion, I mean, 3 parts, but it all boils down to the same thing, is our community standards bylaw has been discussed extensively, both in this chamber and in the public. And I think it's time for modernization of a lot of it, especially for clarity. I think there's a lot of ambiguous language in there regarding enforceability. And when we heard presentations in the past about bylaw officers expressing concerns about the enforceability of their own tickets, I think that's a pretty clear signal that maybe we should be doing something a little bit differently. And so I'm proposing that administration basically looks around the province or even broader if necessary to try and see, you know, how do people do I'll just stick with littering. How do people do a littering bylaw, right? How is it worded in different jurisdictions? Even if it's just like a phone call to them to say, you know, has this been successful for you or not? Get some information on where's doing it right, best practices. And then with respect to the penalty rates, I glanced at them and thought my knee-jerk reaction is a lot of them seemed very low to me, especially for the early payments. Like, I know we want to entice people to pay early, I get that, but you know, the littering is a good example, right? Like, it's a pretty hefty fine if you don't pay it on time, but if you pay it on time, it's in my opinion pretty low. So things of that nature, just to see what other municipalities are doing for rates and see if we can increase them where appropriate.
We do need a formal motion. If you want to read that.
I already did the consent button. No, I'm just kidding. So that town council directs administration to do a full review of the community standards bylaw with the intent to update the same for enhanced clarity and enforceability, and to provide a report to council on recommended options upon review of the best practices of other Alberta municipalities, and that council directs administration to focus these efforts on updating the community standards bylaw where appropriate on littering, vandalism, and public nuisances, and that council direct administration to review the specified penalty rates with the purpose of increasing them in line with other municipalities and to provide a report to council on the recommendations for increased rates.
Excellent, thank you. We'll start with any questions. Councillor Ostindi.
One question for admin is a likely timeline to do this type of review. What would it take? Okay. So
Last meeting in March, just so it's on the
okay.
recording.
Thank you. Yep.
And then, on the issue of timelines, I also want to be cognizant of cost. Is this, because I'm ignorant to the process here, going to be something that's going to be outrageously expensive to do? Marginally.
Ms. Phillips.
This is actually an item that was in our view that we knew needed to be updated at some point in time. So I don't think it's I think I support the motion. It's something that we should be updating. In my time here over the last 10 plus months, I've noticed that there's a few areas that I think could be strengthened. So I have, as administration and Councillor Councillor? You're a councillor now. Director Lebsack, and I talked about it as well prior to this, and so I think we're all on the same page that this is a bylaw that should be updated.
That's great.
Regardless of the cost.
That's great. Any additional questions, and then we'll go into any conversation if there is some. I'll just add 2 points because it's not a question. One is I do really hope one of the things that could be explored in there is things like the micro litter, tidying up sidewalks in front of your property. When I reviewed it, I didn't see any obvious point that spoke about things like mass amounts of cigarette butts on the front of your property. And I don't know that we actually have a way to address that because it really just talks about large obstructions and clearing them within a year. And that's not the timeline I'm looking for micro litter. So I'm hoping that that's something that can be considered. I also just want to bring a fun fact to your attention. Councillor Iwanicki did a little bit of research when he was looking into this, I think, and mentioned, oh, Canmore doesn't even have littering in their bylaw. And I was with the mayor of Canmore last week and I asked him and he confirmed that that is actually true. They do not address litter at all. Apparently people don't do that in Canmore, which I thought was interesting. The only thing that they address is when litter is left behind that is an animal attractant. And that's the scope that they look at. So I thought that was very interesting. I don't want to go that direction, just to be clear, but don't look to them for enforcement on litter. You won't find it. It's really the moral of the story here. Council, any further debate on the motion on the floor? Councillor Ostindi?
In the survey, what surprised me is some of the community standards issues outside of the lakeshore. For instance, I mentioned like the pets, cats and dogs, and other one was unsightly properties. And I'm not sure if that fits in with public nuisances, but I do like that we're focusing a bit here. We're not trying to do everything, but at the same time, that came out in the survey.
One more question. Currently, things that are in the bylaw, if we are looking to have increased enforcement on it, I'll use the example, smoking right outside the doors of the Next Door Center. How shall we best direct people to lodge their complaints, as in me, when I walk through the cloud of smoke? Do we direct people to the questions and concerns tab online? Do we let the front desk know? What is enforcement for a scenario like that? As I sat through an incredibly sad funeral on Sunday and watched a cloud of smokers right up against the window outside of the senior center and grumbled about this to myself. And I didn't step out and call enforcement, but I really wanted to, so. Mr. Lebsack.
Thank you. So yes, I would suggest that you do report it through our online or calling to the office during office hours. That way it's going to be reported. I'm going to suggest that if you do call during the office hours and you get a hold of somebody, we may have the ability to send an officer down right away. If it's a Saturday afternoon and you're at a hockey game and you won't be able to get a hold of the office. So if you report them online, and the more of those reports we get in, and then we can create trends, and then we can do up enforcement schedules based on that. So we'll do up enforcement schedules at least quarterly, sometimes monthly, and what we call enforcement schedules is based on trends. So we know we should be in a certain place at a certain time for a certain thing, and we kind of create those schedules based on that, so.
Great, you can look forward to my submissions. Thank you. Council, any other questions or comments? Great, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Council, we've reached the end of our regular agenda items and we'll look to go into our closed meeting. Would someone like to make that motion? Councilor Mearns.
Make a motion that council move to a closed meeting to discuss advice from officials, and this item shall remain confidential pursuant to Section 29(1) of the Access to Information Act, SA 2024, CA-1.4, and Section 197(2) of the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000 MM-26.
Excellent, thank you. Motions on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Council will head straight to the Lozelle room. Welcome back. Would someone like to bring us out of closed session? Councillor Johannesson.
Sure. That closed session concludes and council reverts back to the regular meeting of council.
Thank you. Councillor Mearns, can you bring us back in? Oh, yeah, we should do that. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Councillor Mearns.
Make a motion that council move to a closed meeting to discuss a personal privacy matter, and this item shall remain confidential pursuant to section 22D of the Access to Information Act, SA 2024, CA 1.4, and section 197.2 of the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000 MM-26.
Well done. Thank you. All those in favor? And opposed? Carried unanimously. Back we go.
That closed session concludes and council reverts back to the regular meeting of council.
Wonderful. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Council, we've reached the end of our agenda. Have a good evening. Thank you.